Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, it's Sai. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, where you can find podcasts, interviews and content on a whole variety of subjects. We've got shows on football, mental health, films, wrestling, serial killers, conspiracy theories, music, writing and more. We upload 3 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday. There's actually 4 this week because we're having this special edition tonight. We are constantly adding new series and guests of all types, including podcasters, doctors, ex-professional footballers, authors, journalists, mixed martial art fighters, wrestlers, pretty much anything, doctors. I think I said that. It's just we speak to anyone and everyone we do. And the best way that you guys can support us is and enabling us to keep bringing new shows, great guests, is by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Click that bell so you get notified every time we upload a show. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And listen to the podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell them all. So today's show's on football. And we're previewing the upcoming championship season, which starts this weekend, which I am absolutely thrilled that this football is back. And I'm got to be honest, I'm thrilled that Cardiff are back in the Championship as well. And I'm also thrilled to have ex-Middlesbrough and Cardiff City striker, Mr. Andy Campbell, join me tonight. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
My pleasure, Si.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, mate. It's good. Normal service resumed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Championship is, to me, I think it's the best league in the world. I do, because literally anyone can beat anyone on any day. There's no easy games, and it's just constant game. It's relentless the way the games come.
Agree. Yeah, totally agree. It's just what I like about it is the hustle and bustle. You know what I mean? And there's no real superstars in the division. Everyone wants to beat everybody. You know what I mean? There's no team that runs away with it, you know what I mean? Especially not enough in the word go, you know what I mean? Like Norwich last year had a good season. Other teams in the past, Brighton have done it, you know what I mean? Leicester have done it a couple of times. West Brom have done it a couple of times. And, you know what I mean? I'm sure someone will come and surprise us this season. But there's that many teams who could or probably should get promoted this season, but who probably won't. The season is just, it's going to be intriguing. It's going to be intriguing.
Yeah, you're right. Not many teams run away with it. And noticeably, there was one team which you left out there, mate. Which obviously Newcastle ran away with it 1 year.
The Wolves as well. Wolves did last year.
Yeah, but it's not often, is it, that a team runs away with it sort of 10-point gap.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting how it goes, because obviously Leeds fell at the last hurdle. Derby fell at the last hurdle again.
Yeah.
And I mean, with Derby, for instance, I just think, how many times can you keep falling at that last hurdle before it really, becomes a thing mentally for the whole club?
Yeah, but I think it is a mental block, though. I think supporters will be expecting it again. Supporters, you know what I mean? Supporters probably won't expect them to get over that finish line. Supporters will probably expect them to be in and around the playoffs, and if they get there, great. If they don't, well, it's just it happened again, and you know what I mean? You get stuck in that rut, and you know what I mean? Being a Derby fan must be the best thing in the world for the last 5, 6, 7 games, but it must be an absolute nightmare in the summer because you've just been a big letdown, and you know what I mean. It's the joys and the wars of supporting a football club, I guess, because we've all been there with our teams and had the highs and the lows. But you know what I mean. I do hope for a football club, Derby, they're a massive football club, and you know what I mean. With Frank Lampard leaving and Philip Cocu taking over, it could be their year this year. Who knows? But you know what I mean. I'm hoping it's not, because, as I said, there's not that many places to get promoted at the minute, and there's a couple of teams who I'd prefer to see over that finish line than Derby at the minute.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because Cardiff did it for a long time. They seem to have this mental block of getting past, from League One to the Championship.
Yeah,
and there was they lost to Stoke in the playoff finals, and we always seemed. I think we we lost out on the playoffs on the last day, the year before that, and it was, you do feel like, oh, it's just never going to happen. It's, stuff's against you, and then obviously you've got teams like, like the Peterborough, who are, they tend to be up and down, Championship, League One, all the time. It must be difficult, as you say. So let's go in alphabetical order. Why not? So let's go with Barnsley first. They finished second in the in League One last year.
Yeah.
They've moved a lot of players out, but they brought they brought a fair few players in, and there's a couple of decent.
They had to as well, though. I think you know what I mean. The league that they were in wasn't a great league. You know what I mean. It was a tough league, and it gives them a good grounding to get back in the Championship. But there again, they're a big club, got a nice ground, they're well followed. They've been in the Premier League not so long ago. You know what I mean. They were a Premier League side under Neil Redfern, I think it was, and Oakwell's always a horrible place to go. You know what I mean. As a supporter, I've been there with Middlesbrough. As a player, I've been there with Cardiff, and it's very rare you get any change out of a game down at Oakwell. Very rare.
Yeah, they'll be difficult to beat. And the one thing is, I always think, is like they're coming up on a high, having finished second in the league. They've been winning a lot of their games, and then I think they're playing Fulham first game, I think, isn't it?
They
might be wrong.
Home, yeah, Fulham at home.
So and Fulham have coming down, having lost a lot of games.
Yeah.
And if Fulham aren't really spot on with their attitude and their mentality, there's on the first day of the season, there's certainly room for a shock, I would say.
Well, you're going to get a full crowd. All the Barnsley fans are going to go there expecting to get a result. It's a massive game for them. They've got nothing to lose, like you just said there. That all the pressure will be on Fulham. You know what I mean? They've got Mitrovic still. They've got Sessegnon still. They've still got Premier League players and should win that game. But should and will or should and could doesn't happen in the Championship. And you know what I mean? It would not surprise me one bit if Barnsley comfortably beat them, because that's the Championship. And then, you know what I mean, on the flip side of the coin, you know what I mean, that you could easily see Scott Parker in his first proper full season in charge and hit the ground running, you know what I mean, being a Premier League side, and had a good summer, because they got relegated, you know what I mean, quite a few games before, so they'd already planned previously before other clubs that what was going to happen next season, and they've done the business probably in house a little bit. That they've kept the big players and meant that they're looking for a straight bounce back to the Premier League.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see guys like Scott Parker and Jonathan Woodgate, like British coaches, kick on a bit now over the next couple of years. There's a few of them coming up, getting these bigger jobs. So I would like to see him have a good season, finishing just behind Cardiff City, obviously.
Yeah. Neil Warnock, 70 years old? You know what I mean? What Woodgate, Scott Parker, 39, 40? You know what I mean? Can you see them managing in 30 years' time? Hand on heart now, I'll say no. You know what I mean? Neil's just been an absolute warrior with managing, and you know what I mean? He knows this league inside out, and you know what I mean? It's a tough league. It's relentless, like you said. It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? With the League Cup games, FA Cup games, it's going to be a tough season for these young managers, and I think experience could play a massive part in it on and off the pitch, I think, this season. Yeah,
the Warnock effect, I think, it can't be underrated for Cardiff, because he's taken so many.
And allegedly he's retiring as well. He says this is his last season. I know he said that before. But if he is planning, deep down he is planning, he'll want to go off on the biggest high ever, and that'll be for someone else to take over his job in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that I said this last year. I think I might have even said it to you actually when we spoke last time. I thought that if he kept Cardiff up, I thought he would retire.
Yeah, agree. Because I think you both said that.
I think the Salah thing, you could see it really took it out of him.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, I think if he had kept us up, he would have probably gone.
Yeah.
But he's stubborn man, and he's proud man. He wants to get Cardiff back up.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Where he feels they belong. So back to Barnsley. Do you think they're fighting a relegation battle this year? Or do you think
I
they
probably
can
don't know.
surprise us?
I think they'll do. I think they'll do well. You know what I mean? Like you said, hard to beat. I think they kept a lot of clean sheets last year, which means they got a lot of things right. I know it's a different league, the Championship, but confidence breeds confidence. Clean sheets breeds clean sheets, and you know what I mean. They didn't score a lot of goals last year, but they were keeping clean sheets, and just on the experience of Cardiff keeping clean sheets, one goal sometimes is enough to win the game. And if they can keep half of the amount of clean sheets they did last year, they'll comfortably stay up mid-table, I believe.
Yeah, I think they probably will be in and around the relegation zone, but I think if they can keep their home form, they'll be comfortable because, like you said, it's a very difficult place to go.
Yeah.
And I think if they can keep that home form strong and don't drop many points at home, they'll probably just about finish above the relegation zone or like lower table.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're certs to go down by any means.
No. I think there's always some shocks, and I think a team coming from the lower division, you know what I mean. They could spend some more money as well. They could have an influx around January to need it, you know what I mean, because they are a big club. They get decent attendances. They'll probably sell out this season, you know what I mean. They'll probably have good season ticket sales. They'll sell out away fans the majority of the season, so their income will take a plummet up this season, and which might mean that they invest on the playing field as well as off it as well.
Yeah, what's the do you know what sort of figures clubs get what sort of figures clubs get for coming up from League One to Championship? Like I'm imagining it's not going to be the same as you get to go up into the Premier League. But I'm assuming
I think it's minimal. I think you're probably looking at I think it's more attendances and things, you know what I mean, and Sky money, you know what I mean. The Sky money increases because you've got more chance. The Championship's covered on Sky quite a bit this season, and like we saw, you know what I mean, because it's like you said, it's probably the second best league in the world behind the Premier League at the minute. Because of the prize at the end of it. So you know what I mean. In League One, it probably only starts to take off in April, May. You know what I mean, and towards the end of the playoffs. So it's quite disappointing, really. You know what I mean. They probably don't get the reviews and the publicity they need until it's probably too late.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I assumed that they would get like a decent pay, like a decent payoff just for getting promoted. But I mean, if you look at this the way, like I said, Peterborough have been up and down. If that was the case, then they'd perhaps be a bit more, they'd have a bit more cash to spend, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it'd be more stable.
So next up is Birmingham, finished 17th last year.
Yeah.
Bit of an enigma, Birmingham, and they when on paper they got this squad which seems really strong, but they just don't seem. Ever since they've gone down, they just haven't really been able to get that momentum which is needed in the Championship. Because I think that's a big thing. Is the teams which go up are the teams which can string together runs. Runs of 5-6 games, 5-6 wins on the bounce. And then that run might end, but then they'll get another run, and they'll sort of keep coming up with these sort of little sort of spritz of a few games, few wins, and that momentum I think is a big thing, especially after Christmas.
But I was concerned for them last season. I thought they were in a really bad place. Obviously Gary Monk came in, did a very good job. He brought the confidence back of some of the players. Jukovic in particular scored the goals which kept them in the division. He's obviously lost his job now, Gary. So you know what I mean. That's where's that football club going to be this season again? You know, it is a bit of a shambles at the minute. You know what I mean. That football club with especially the rumours what have come out. You know what I mean about why he lost his job and stuff, and with the agents' money, and the football club is a massive football club. You know what I mean? Birmingham as a city is a big city. You know what I mean? That football club should not be hanging around the bottom of the Championship. It should be fighting towards where Aston Villa were end of last season. You know what I mean? They get good crowds. They've got a big, massive stadium. But there's something just not right. You know what I mean? And it hasn't been like that for years.
Yeah.
They've been struggling for years and don't seem to invest as much as probably they should do. And it's not really if you were picking a football club in the Midlands area, you'd probably go Villa, Wolves, West Brom before Birmingham, and that's a massive shame because St Andrews has always been a notoriously massive football club, and it's a nice place to go.
Yeah, I like St Andrews. It's close to the pitch, like a good
Yeah.
like an old-fashioned stadium.
Well, they've
It's
kept the stadium there, haven't they? You know what I mean? They've just obviously invested in it and obviously made it all-seater stadium. So they've kept the infrastructure there, and it's like you say, it's a quite knit, tight to the football pitch, and it's always been a lovely place to go.
yeah. So they've got this boy on loan from Chelsea who's I really like him. Is Jake Clark-Salter.
Yeah,
He's defender, young boy. Like he's really really good and highly rated, but I'm not sure that a young player on loan, a centre back, is what you need when you've only just stayed up the year before.
no,
You need
I
that.
agree.
I think you need something a bit more physical and a bit more, a bit more experienced and a bit more wily, shall we say?
Well, there's a lot of centre forwards in this division. You know, I'll use Kenneth Zaha as an example. He moves across to West Brom. You've got Kenneth Zaha, an experienced 6'4", 15, 16 stone man against a young boy in a Midlands derby. That's that's a big ask for any young boy. You know what I mean, to play in a local derby against an international class footballer who's a big strong man. But that's the way that they're going down. You know, is it a cheap option to get those kind of boys in because they haven't got a lot of money to go and spend and get experienced players in? Is it quite a rush decision? Is it only time will tell? You know what I mean? I hope these young boys do well because they deserve a platform to go and play. But it's sometimes it's like sink or swim for them because if they don't make it here, they go back to the club and go and play under 23s football again, which is just no good for them.
Yes, it's no use. It's too big a drop in standard. I think it doesn't prepare them for first team football, unfortunately.
Right, no, and I think that those who fail, it's such a shame because then you know what I mean, they go out of the game, and it's such a. We spoke about this last time, and the clubs have to take responsibility for it because, you know, I mean, sending a lad out on loan is not his final chance at being a professional footballer. You know what I mean? It's to send a lad in the Championship is such a tough ask because young kids sometimes would be best off going over to Holland or going over to Spain or going over to Italy because it's not as physical, it's more technical. They've been used to playing with world-class footballers in training, and then all of a sudden they're training with probably lesser players and playing against more physical players. It's such a sink or swim moment for these young boys.
Yeah, I mean the physicality alone, the difference in Championship and Premier League is huge. The referees let them get away with more.
Yeah.
You know, more teams play that sort of direct football, trying to collect the second ball.
Yeah.
And it is a bit sink or swim for these young defenders and young players. You know, some of them will make it, but like you say, would they be better suited? Like you look at what Jordan Sancho is doing out in Germany.
Yeah.
Like how many of like Chelsea, for instance, have got, they got tens and tens of players on loan, haven't they, everywhere?
Yeah.
How many of those who go on loan to the Championship and then go back and then don't make it, get dropped, and like you say, fall out of the game? You know, some will go and find a new club, but some won't. You know, how different could their career be if they went out to Spain or they went out to?
Yeah. Totally agree. You've got the young Chelsea boy, the Wales centre half who's
Ethan. I can never pronounce his second name.
Yeah, is it Ampadu or something? He's gone over to Leipzig in Germany, and you know what I mean. Good luck to him. You know what I mean? Because where would he have gone? Where would he have gone? He probably if he was going to come to the Championship, he'd probably sign for Cardiff. You know what I mean? And to be fair, is he? He's probably not Neil Warnock's kind of player because Neil Warnock plays a lot of direct set pieces. He's got probably. Well, now he's got another centre half in Aidan Flint. He's got Sol Bamba, who's injured and will come back. He's got Shaw Morris. You know what I mean? He's got all these influx of players who play one way, and it's you know what I mean. So for me, his career path, like you just said there, he's going over to Germany. He'll get more time on the ball. He'll be able to express himself because he's technically a very, very, very good footballer.
Yeah, it's going to be good for Wales, I think, as well, because he's already broken into the Welsh team,
Yeah.
and he's qualities. I was really hoping he would come to Cardiff, but equally, like exactly what you just said, he's not a Warnock player,
No.
and the way that we're going to play the majority of the time, I'm not sure that it would suit him
Right.
the way he might, and then he might struggle, and then that can knock him back a year or two, then because.
Yeah.
He'll be in and out of the team, and he won't get on the ball, and he won't develop.
Yeah.
And it's
The
a weird one.
knock-on effect. You know what I mean? For me, Cardiff get promoted this year. New manager comes in, takes him in the Premier League. It's a win-win for everybody because Chelsea will see him against world-class footballers week in, week out, and it's you know what I mean. He just has to be patient and go and have the year of his life this year in Germany.
Oh yeah, and I bet he'll have a real good time out there as well.
Yeah,
yeah, it's one experience as well for a young man. Do you know what I mean? Go and work in Germany for a year.
We're learning the language, you know what I mean. Just being treated like a proper professional, you know what I mean, and learning different ways of living. It's a perfect opportunity for a young boy.
So Birmingham down.
I think
in
you're
the
going to struggle.
battle.
Yeah, I think same again this year. I think the team on the edge for me, and I think teams who do that, you know, what I mean, 1 year the slips of the net, and I think this year I think they're really going to struggle. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I got not a great deal of sympathy for Gary Monk. He's not my most favourite person ever, but managers just don't get no time anymore. No matter. So what was the story with him that you said there was some sort of?
Well, it was something to do with an agent and payments to an agent, that he was using the same agent to bring all these players in, and he got found out to have was irregular payments to an agent. So the club stopped all the deals and relieved him of his duties. And you know what I mean. The clubs can't afford, especially with this financial fair play. You know what I mean. You can't afford to be anything other than white at the minute. You've got to be. You've got to be look like you're cutting your cost accordingly and doing everything by the book.
Yeah. So like agents and money, insert Swansea City joke here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there. So next on the list, I guess I kind of did, but didn't. Next on the list is Blackburn. They finished 15th last year.
Yeah.
But they've signed some very interesting players.
Extremely.
So they brought in like Stuart Downing from Middlesbrough. They brought in Bradley Johnson from Derby on a free, which I think is a pretty good signing.
Yeah.
What's the boy's name from Brighton? They got someone on loan from Brighton who's pretty good. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah, I think Blackburn. I don't know. I can't see him. It's a weird one. I can't see him going up automatically, but if they ended up in the playoffs, it wouldn't surprise me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, he's brought in some excellent players. You know, I know Tony Mowbray from his days when he was a Middlesbrough manager, and he's a superb football manager. He just needs he needs to have a good start. You know what I mean? They need Stewie Downing on form straight away. Bradley Johnson's a very good signing. They've got Sam Gallagher from Southampton as well, centre forward. He'll score goals. Well, he's scored goals in the past. He's exciting. You know what I mean? They brought in a couple of younger boys on loan and things. And good luck to them. You know what I mean? They won the Premier League under Kenny Dalglish years ago, didn't they? You know what I mean? So it's a sleeping giant. You know what I mean? It's a rich football club, but no football club has a given right to get promoted and do well, and the Championship doesn't really care for old failings and things. So you know what I mean? I watched Middlesbrough play there last year, and it was probably one of the most poorer performances I've seen of a team. Blackburn were awful on the day. I know it's only one game, but Tony can't afford that kind of performance because you know what I mean. Middlesbrough were average as well on the day, and they blew them away. And you can't afford that in the Championship because by the time you do it one week, you do it the next year. All of a sudden, you've lost 3 or 4 on the belt, or you're struggling down the bottom of the league, or you're 12 points behind the playoffs, and gaps like that don't get caught up anymore.
No, you could fall. That's the thing in the Championship as well. Like I was saying about the runs, is equally if you go on a bit of a losing run, 2-3 losses, or even like a couple of losses and a draw, you can suddenly be a good few points behind your
Yeah,
target or whatever,
yeah,
and you can get sucked in real quick. They've also got Bradley Dack, the midfielder, who's I think
very
he's
good.
mid-20s.
One
He
of the
scored
best players.
fifth.
Yeah, one of the best players in the Championship by a country mile, and I'm surprised no one's had a go at him. I think with the players they brought in, I think this is the last chance saloon to keep him if they don't have a really good season and get in the playoffs or better, because he's where did he come from? Gillingham, I think, and
Yeah,
he needs to progress his own football career, and he's
yeah.
had his first full season in the Championship. He scored like you say 15 goals. His assists were magnificent. He was man of the match quite a few times. He was their best player by a country mile. But you know what I mean. I think it was probably quite easy to play against Blackburn last year because you mark him out the game or you try and close him down a little bit more than they didn't have anything else. Where now for me, he's brought in players in and around him which could bring him out as to something even better.
Yeah, I think Stuart Downing's going to be important for him with his experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Dak, like you say, he scored 15 goals in the Championship, which is excellent return for a midfielder.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's 25, so like you say, the end of this season he's going to be 26,
Yeah.
and he's got to start thinking, I need to go because you want to go make that big move or the jump up to the Premier League in your peak, don't you? You don't want to go there as you're on the way down, sort of thing.
Yeah, he wants to.
So I
He
think,
wants to go there. Yeah, he wants to go there playing well and confident. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to go there after on a bad season. And you know what I mean? If he'd have got a move this summer, I wouldn't have been surprised.
yeah, I was when I was sort of researching this and looking, I was half expecting to see him on the out list
Yeah,
because scoring midfielders scoring 15 goals. Normally they get snapped up pretty
yeah,
quick,
yeah,
but I mean,
yeah,
still there. So Blackburn, do you think they're thereabouts the
yeah.
playoffs?
I think they'll be top 10 for me. You know what I mean? I don't think they'll get in the playoffs unless the new signings really hit the ground running. But you know what I mean? They haven't played with each other for apart from few pre-season games. So you know what I mean? It's going to be a big ask to turn an average season into a superb season for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think top 10. I don't see them being in the relegation battle, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure they'll make the playoffs either.
yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, next up, Brentford. I love Brentford, I got to say. They amaze me every year. 11th
Well,
they finished last year.
well, they've amazed me in the transfer market because they bought Pontus Jansson from Leeds United for £5 million, and Brentford to sign anybody for probably more than £500,000, £750,000 is just unbelievable because Brentford they're normally a selling club. They've made absolute fortunes over the years because they've bought on the cheap from non-league. They've built these players from nothing and they've sold them on and still kept the dignity, still kept them doing the right way, playing the right way in the football. But they've spent a small fortune this summer.
Yeah,
You
they've
know what I mean?
signed. They've had Joe Adams from Bury on a undisclosed. Then they've had Pontus Jansson from Leeds for 5.5 million. They've had Mateus Jensen from Celta Vigo for 3.4 million.
Yeah.
Christian Norgard from Fiorentina for 3.15 million.
Yeah.
Pinnock from Barnsley 3 million, and David Raya from Blackburn for 3 million. So like that's a
It's not
big
cheap, is it? You know what I mean?
spend.
It's more money. It's more
No,
money than Cardiff City has spent. It's more money than Middlesbrough have spent. It's more money than Derby have spent. You know what I mean? These so-called massive clubs. You know what I mean? They're obviously the Brentford have obviously waited the right time, and this season they're obviously going for a bit more success than in previous years because they've just been sat nicely for me in the last probably the last 4 or 5 seasons since it came up and surprised everybody. Where
yeah,
this season they're obviously going for it, and the manager's being given some serious backing from the chairman.
yeah, they've spent 20 million plus. They finished 11th in the Championship last year. It's not like they're coming down from the Premier League. I don't
No,
think
no,
Cardiff have spent 20 million in the last 2 summers.
no, yeah, no,
So I mean,
exactly.
it's a big amount. I think you'd think that with those players, they should go from, they finished 11th last year. With that sort of strengthening, I'd imagine that they'd be there or thereabouts the playoffs.
They've got to be aiming for the playoffs.
They've got to be it.
They've got to be, and anything less has got to be a disappointment, because the chairman, you can't be spending that kind of money outlay in the summer and not achieving what you're going to achieve. Because if they spent 7.5 last year and 7.5 this year, then I'd probably go, yeah, they probably are where they are, because you've got to keep improving. But to spend that kind of money in one go in one summer on some, Pontus Jansson, he was Leeds United's best centre half last year. You know what I mean? So to go and make a statement like that and go and get their best centre half, there's obviously something going right at Brentford this year, and it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I think, because I'd like to see I'd love to see them progress even further, because it's a fairy tale. You know what I mean? They've a small club, small ground. You know what I mean? It's a proper old school football club, but but they always try to play the right way.
Yeah, they got to hold on to the Neil. I can't pronounce his name. Maupay. Because he's scored 25 goals last year. That's so important.
Talk of Villa getting hold of him for. I think they offered 15 million quid, and they wanted 25. And you know what I mean? If they're signing these kind of players for 5 million quid, then someone who scores 25 plus goals last season is probably worth 25 million quid, because it's a 15 million pound nowadays for a Premier League club is nothing. So, you know what I mean? Brentford might as well keep holding for a season and see if it can get them promoted.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, chances are it is a gamble, because Kenneth Sahor, we got offered 12 million for him a couple of years ago, and Cardiff turned it down.
Yeah.
But then his goals took us up.
Yeah.
But then since then, he scored like 5 goals since last season. So they took the gamble that his price would go up rather than down. It went down, but equally he took him up. So if Maupay's goals take him up, then it's worth the punt, even if his price goes down. If he doesn't perform, he doesn't get the goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I think January, if they're nowhere to be seen, as in they're not in and around the top 8, 9, 10, then I think they'll probably cash in on him, and someone in the Premier League will have a punt and get him. Maybe he's a little bit cheaper than what they were going to in the summer.
Yeah, they sold Konza to Villa for 12 million. I didn't know that.
Yeah, is he a fullback?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he's a fullback, right back. I think, but 12 million. That's what I mean. They've spent 20 million. I was just looking at the money they've brought in. They brought 12 million in for him, and they brought in David Bentley for 2 million. Sold him for 2 million. Sawyers for 3 million. So they have spent a lot, but they've brought in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So, because I was wondering whether they may sell that striker for 25 million to, balance the books almost. And
balance the books, yeah.
But they don't. I don't think that they need to, and I think it's worth the gamble for me. So for me, I think Brentford will make the playoffs.
I think they'll be up there. I think it'll be the new players have to gel straight away. You know what I mean? They need a good start, because playing catch up in the Championship is a tough one. So they need a good start.
Do you think they could go up automatic, or do you think that'd be a bit step too far?
If they had a good start, there's always a shock. There's always a team who surprises. You know what I mean? And like I said, they're the outlay with the players who did well last season. You know what I mean? There's you just never know. You know what I mean? I if I was putting my neck on the line, I'd say it's a little bit too much of an ask, and I'd say playoffs would be they'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Next we got Bristol. Bristol City.
They've spent fortunes as well. You know what I mean? They bought Thomas Carlos from Chelsea, 8 million quid. Casey Palmer from Chelsea. You know what I mean? Another young boy from Chelsea.
David Bentley from Brentford.
Yeah,
they've couple of million.
They were good. They were a good side. They've had a good season. You know what I mean? The season before, but they just obviously faltered right at the death. But it's it is down to if they can hang on towards the end of the season, if the new players can come in. You know what I mean? Obviously, they've obviously brought in a brand new defender. You know what I mean? I think they've sold one to Brighton the other day. Obviously, you know what I mean? They haven't been defensively strong since probably selling Aidan Flint 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So they've obviously realised where things went wrong last season. They were scoring goals, but letting a lot in, and obviously that was their downfall last year. That cost them their playoff position in the end, really.
Yeah, they sort of just failed right at the last hurdle, didn't they? I think they'll be there or thereabouts again. I think there's maybe a few other teams I fancy for the playoffs over them, but I think they'll be, in that sort of top 8 there or thereabouts.
They always are. They always are. And to be fair, you know what I mean. However we love or hate them, you know what I mean. They are a decent championship side, and you know what I mean. It's especially with Cardiff being in the championships. It's always a good another derby to have. You know what I mean, over the border, and it's it just makes things even more intriguing that they're spending a little bit more money on some decent players from Chelsea. To be fair, because I know Callas was at Middlesbrough a couple of years ago on loan, and he was a good player. He was only a young boy at the time, you know what I mean? Because that was probably 3 years ago he was there when they got promoted, and you know what I mean. I'm sure as a player he's grown, and he knows what the championship's all about, so it won't be a shock to him.
Yeah, they got a lot of players who were familiar with the championship, and they experienced. Maybe not, not like older players necessarily, but players who are experienced in the championship.
Yeah.
And I think that that accounts for a lot, like we discussed, all the different aspects of the championship.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
hoot as well. Yeah, I think it has to, and I think managers. I mean, Lee Johnson as a young manager, you know what I mean. He probably learned a lot last year about with failing. You know what I mean, because his dad's obviously been a manager all his life, and I think this year will be a little bit more comfortable for Lee. He'll know what to expect. You know what I mean, throughout the 46 game season in the league, and he'll want to go that one step further, and hopefully for him he succeeds. But you know what I mean, it's a tough league, and you know what I mean, it's going to be a big ask for him.
Yes. So on to the mighty Cardiff City. Finished 18th in the Premier League last year. They brought in a couple of players. I think Aidan Flint is a big one. Literally, he's a big boy. But I think he's he's quality defender. They sold Manga, which I was a bit disappointed by. But I mean, he's in the last year of his contract. He wanted to go back to France. You can't really, he'd been a good servant to the club. He'd done well. I did feel he got shunted out to the right back position a little bit last year, when actually he was probably the one I would have rather kept as centre back. And I think when Morrison got injured and he moved into the middle, we looked a lot more solid. But then as soon as Morrison was back, they moved him back out, and we looked a bit shaky again.
I think that's what we said earlier though about Neil having his favourites being centre half. That Sol scored goals in big games. Morrison scored goals in big games, and unfortunately Manga wasn't as prolific going forward. So you know what I mean. That's maybe the reason why he got put out there and into the right back spot instead of playing the 3 centre halves and Neil changing his shape and his formation. Neil went with his tried and tested, and maybe he was a little bit naive in thinking, and obviously Bruno wants to go back home and go and spend, you know what I mean, more time with family and in a country which he knows for his football, really.
Yeah, I think a big loss for Cardiff is Gunnarsson particularly for the championship season.
Yeah,
he didn't play a lot last year, but as a central midfielder in the championship, he was perfect. He had that mix of sort of physicality, but also, he was technically pretty good. He put in some awesome performances for Cardiff in the championship over the years.
Yeah,
and I do think he's a bit of a blow to lose him on a free.
Yeah.
But, you can't fault him.
Then they brought in Will Vaux.
I'm very excited to see him.
Yeah, he'll love to play for City. He'll love to play in front of the Welsh crowd and try and get into that Welsh squad. And you know what I mean, him more than most. He'll, you know what I mean, if he's to lose Gunners was a massive deal, but to bring in a hungry Welsh boy to try and get in the Welsh squads is a massive thing. And you know what I mean, his other two signings, big signings, were obviously Flint and the centre forward Glasgow, who scored a hat trick against Bayern Munich. You know what I mean? Neil's done some shrewd signings again, and he seems to get better with age, like a fine wine. Is Neil, you know what I mean, with his football management and you know what I mean, I can't see anything but success. I'll be honest, you know, unless something drastic happens this season, I can't see anything but promotion.
I think my one worry is obviously if they get this German fella, they do need him in, and I think a lot will depend on him settling, because whilst Sahor didn't score many last year, the last time he played in the Championship, he did score goals, and he did set up a lot of goals with his runs and his work rate.
Yeah.
And you know, Patterson's done a tremendous job up front for a fullback in the Premier League and the Championship. You can't fault him, but equally, I was hoping, and yeah, I think is the Gratzel, is it? Has he been confirmed? Has he been confirmed now, or is it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's okay then. I think he, I think hopefully if he can get going, then he could be a really shrewd signing, because they didn't pay much for him, did they?
No, I think it was only £5.5 million, and we've just been talking there about 15 million pounds. You know what I mean? It's a bargain, and you know what I mean, these bargains don't come around very often.
Yeah, I did a show last night with Alan from Away Day Apparel, and we were talking about like strikers and that. And I still don't know why no one's taken a punt on Lee Griffiths from Celtic.
Yeah,
he's scored so many goals. I know he's having a few issues.
Yeah, I think he's quite comfortable in Scotland, though. I think he's happy probably to win titles and trophies and playing the Champions League. And yeah, it's difficult because it's as a footballer you want to play, but sometimes when he looks back in his career, he'll probably say all his winners, medals, and trophies, and
yeah,
it's difficult.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Cardiff are obviously aiming for us from the club's point of view to go straight back up. Do you think they'll go up as title contenders, playoff contenders?
I think they'll go. I think they'll go up. I think they'll go up in top two. You know, I think. I know they got relegated last year, and if there is a hangover, I can't see it, because I think they've got the perfect manager in place. He's still got all his staff there. He's still got the nucleus of the Premier League side. You know what I mean? You got your Etheridge, your Morrison. You know what I mean? You still got Bamba. You still got your Joe Bennett. You've still got your Joe Rawls. You've got your Hoylets. You've got your Mendes Langs. You've got new signings coming in to freshen things up. You've still got the supporters to back you up. It's a recipe for success. You know what I mean? They just need to understand. I mean, they're not going to turn up on Saturday at Wigan and just think that they get 3 points guaranteed, because you know what I mean. We've been to Wigan before and been battered 4-0, and it hasn't been a very nice drive home. It's been awful.
No, I think, like you say, they got the right mix of manager and players.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems for Cardiff last year was that they were in the Premier League with a Championship squad, and they didn't add enough Premier League quality. Yeah. But from a Championship point of view, they've pretty much got the same squad they went up with, but they've added some
better, and they've also
some real
got
quality.
They've got the Premier League money as well, so they've got the parachute money. You know what I mean? So if they want to spend in January, they've got that as well. If they need a little push and a player comes available, and they need, because they don't need to sell. Cardiff City now are a football club, which they don't need to sell. And if I know Aston Villa have just signed Heaton today, so they won't come back in for Etheridge. I don't believe. But if a Premier League club comes in for him, they don't have to sell him, because I look at people like Etheridge and think, how on earth is somebody not bought him, and how on earth some of the other players as well? How's a top European side not gone 20 million pound, 25 million quid? Because it's a drop in the ocean nowadays in football for these kind of players. But you know what I mean? It's hard. It's also hard to turn down as a player and for a Championship club as well.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Etheridge for me is, like, as a goalkeeper, he is fantastic. shot stopping, his handling, his movement, everything's really good. The one thing he struggles with is his distribution with his feet.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the very, very top clubs, they look for that.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of stock in it. So I do wonder whether that is just perhaps stopped, like a West Ham or someone of that sort of ilk coming in for him, strongly. But I'm happy looks like he's staying.
Yeah, so
because he's a quality keeper and he kept Cardiff in many a game last year. Yeah. Okay, so Charlton finished third in League One last year. Been very, very busy with the free transfers and undisclosed.
I think they have to be. I think that Lee Boy. I seen an interview earlier on Sky Sports News, and I think the club. Obviously, the club are backing him, and the club are giving him an opportunity to do well in the Championship. But it's going to be a big ask. They haven't been in the Championship for such a long time. They came up in the playoffs, which is a great way to go up, but it also gives you a month less to prepare for a Championship season. It also gives your players a month less rest than you probably need after a long grueling season that they had. And I just think you've also got to invest. You just said there they brought loads of frees. I think they spent £250,000. And that's it. And it's going to be a big ask. I know teams are walkover, and I'm sure they'll be hard to beat. The Valley is always a tough place to go and play, but it's not intimidating at the same time. So I think they're going to struggle. And I think they'll probably expect to struggle.
I think the teams which know they're going to struggle, they very much depend on the wheeling and dealing that they can do.
Yeah.
Much like when Warnock first came into Cardiff, we were right up shit creek, as it were.
Yeah.
And he had to do some wheeling and dealing, get some loans in and some free transfers, and just do what you can to stay up. Doesn't matter, by hook or by crook, just got to stay up. I feel like Charlton have got to do that. They got a striker who scored 21 goals last year. They need him to, hit the ground running and hopefully continue that at this next level up. Are we talking relegation battle?
I think so. I can't see anything else. I think they will be relegated in the come the end of the season.
Yeah, I do hope Lee Bowyer can does a good job. Like I say, I want to see these guys kick on now and really show that what they can do, because it's like a new generation of managers, isn't it? Because it's like your Woodgates and your Philip Cocu and Lee Bowyer, players of a more recent sort of playing time. They're taking these jobs now. Yeah. So I want to see I want to see the ones who are going to kick on and perhaps in a few years get the big jobs.
Yeah, I hope he does well. I hope he can do well and he can get himself a better job, because if he's going to be a good manager, a good coach, he needs backing as well. Because you look at we've gone through some clubs already and they've all been backed with either big name free transfers or with a lot of cash, and teams who don't, that one of them is going to have to struggle. The three teams have to go down at the Championship. They have to. It's just. It is a lottery, but if you're not gonna speculate to accumulate, sometimes you're just gonna struggle.
Oh yeah, and speaking of managers, obviously Derby County, which is our next team, who finished 6th last year, they lost their manager.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big blow, because I think you do feel he did a really good job, and you could see that the players were behind him. The players bought into Frank Lampard.
Yeah,
and I think whatever club you're at, no matter how big, no matter how small, if the players buy into what the manager believes and the way he wants to play, that's a huge part of success.
Yeah, and I hope the way he's left as well, it doesn't have an adverse effect on the pitch, because he obviously wanted to go and get a better job, which is fine, but it's how long it dragged out, because this could have been sorted out the day after the Championship season for me, and it could have been agreed a little bit earlier. The
everyone knew, didn't they?
Yeah, the clubs could have been not as stubborn. Derby could have said to him that this is the once in a lifetime opportunity, because I understand why they were being stubborn. You know what I mean? He brought all these young players on loan and got these players from Chelsea and from Liverpool and from all over, and who did really well. And now someone else has come in and has got to start again and got to start again with a bit of pressure as well, because Derby had a good season last season and got beat in the playoff final. So, you know what I mean? They were the fourth best team in the championship on paper. You know what I mean? By getting beat in the playoff final. So Philip Koku's under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, they've only brought 2 players in.
Yeah, they brought nobody in. I don't know. I don't know if he's happy with the squad. He has got a strong squad, but I would have thought by the end of the window he's got to have brought in at least 3 of his own players in, maybe more.
Well, they've brought
in any foreigners as well. He hasn't brought in like really any
Dutch players
any Dutch lads in. I thought he would have brought in like an influx probably to help him out.
Well, you've brought in Dowell from Everton and Shinnie from Aberdeen on a free.
Yeah.
And that's it. But then they've lost like Ashley Cole, Marcus Olsen, David Nugent, Craig Bryson, all really, really experienced players.
Wilson, and all your loan players as well.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I think whilst they have got a strong squad, they had so many players on loan and they've released a load of players. You do wonder if that'll have an impact on the squad, because a lot of the players who were involved last year are no longer there.
No.
And like I say, they've only brought in two players. They've obviously they got Jaden Bogle, who is a very, very good player.
Yeah.
You know, he's only 18. He had a good season last year. Needs to obviously kick that on. But again, how much of that was, you know, obviously it's the player, but how much influence did Frank Lampard have on him?
Yeah.
You know, Philip Koku though is a great sort of ex-player to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a quality player. He was.
Yeah, he was.
Do you think playoff hopefuls, playoff sort of thereabouts, or do we think they can challenge all the way for the title? Or
I don't. Not for me. Like we spoke at the start, didn't we, about that mental block and about that about always just falling at the last, and I believe it'll happen again, because there's always a football club who always just fails at the end, and you know what I mean. And Derby fans will probably be expecting it. You know what I mean. I don't think the manager will be under that much pressure with as much as probably we're putting on him. Because I think the chairman will understand that they've lost a lot of players, and I think the fans will understand that he's had a bit of a rush summer, and hopefully he's given enough time, because I know we're on about young English managers. You know what I mean? Philip Koku,
young managers,
you know what I mean? He's had an outstanding football career, so. You know what I mean? Hopefully he's given enough time to have a good opportunity here, and then hopefully progress his own career in as far as it can go.
The thing is, he needs time to get to mould the team into the way he wants to play.
Yeah.
And you know, if they get off to a bad start and sack him by Christmas, that's not enough time to come into a club as late as he did.
Yeah.
And you know, be expected to sort of imprint your own style and your own players and your own squad.
Yeah, but we said it earlier, though, didn't we, about managers just not giving long enough. They're not giving long enough at the minute, and unfortunately, he's if he doesn't hit the ground running straight away, you know what I mean. Fans will get on his back straight away because of the success he had under Frank Lampard. He had a good start to his managerial career, got him in the playoff final, and you know what I mean. Hopefully, he is given a fair crack and given some serious time because he needs it.
Yeah, hopefully. I think they'll make the playoffs probably and fail again, unfortunately, for the Derby fans.
Yeah.
Next up is Fulham, 19th in the Premier League. Only brought the 2 players in, sorry.
Yeah, but the two very good players, though. Anthony Knockaert, you know what I mean? For me, he's 2 years ago, he was the best player in the Championship. You know what I mean? He can create anything out of anything. And I'm surprised that Brighton have allowed him to leave. And Cavallero from Wolves, you know what I mean? He played a massive part in them getting promoted. So they've been, Scotty Parker's been quite shrewd in the 2 players he's brought in, and with the players he's still got there, Mitrovic, Sessegnon, you know what I mean? They've given themselves a huge chance at getting promoted again, because Fulham will be a force this year, and they've got a big squad, still a Premier League squad of players, and there's like I said, they can't go into their first game of the season at Barnsley expecting to win straight away, but it wouldn't surprise me if they started really strong, unbeaten for the first 3, 4, 5 games of the season, and then went from there, because I think Scott Parker probably, with his first proper year under his control, he'll want to hit the ground running. He'll want to get promoted and get back to the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree. I think them and Cardiff for me are the sort of top 2 contenders. I feel like Cardiff will grind out results, like 1-0s and 2-1s, and just keep grinding them out. And I feel like Fulham will hand out a few Tonkins here and there.
Yeah,
because they got a Premier League squad basically, whereas Cardiff have a Championship squad because they had a Championship squad last year.
Yeah.
And Fulham have done very well. They've held on to the majority of their players.
Yeah.
But I agree, Anthony Knockaert is quality, and I think that's
superb.
A very good signing.
Yeah.
So we both think that they're going to be title contenders.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up is Huddersfield, who finished bottom of the Premier League.
Yeah, they were a strange one last year, because I didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? They obviously massively overachieved the year before in the Premier League, and didn't reinvest that season, and I think everyone presumed they would just carry on and do the same. But they had a really bad start. It didn't get any better, and they were obviously relegated quite early. So they were probably able to sort out their business for this season probably a lot earlier, and do the planning a lot earlier than anybody else. And they've obviously signed a right winger from a French club. Signed him for over 10 million quid. So it's a strange one. Is this lad going to know the Championship? Is he? You know what I mean? Is it going to be a big ask for Huddersfield? There's got to be pressure on them. They've got to get back promoted. They have to in the next 3 years before the parachute money falls out from Sky, and with the business that they brought in for me, I don't see them. I don't see them going back up straight away. I don't see them being a force. I see them being steady away. I see them being in and around the top 10, just outside the playoffs, maybe hitting the playoffs. But I don't see them causing the top 2, 3, 4 many problems.
Yeah, I think they'd have to improve massively, to be honest, to make the playoffs. Over last year, I thought they never looked like staying up from the very first game of the season.
Yeah.
They just never got. It was like I say, it was a bit of a weird one. They just never. They never got going.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see, but yeah, I'm not convinced they'll make the playoffs. Shall we say?
I don't believe they will. I think they'll be just in and around mid-table, and I think anything else will be a bonus for them, for me.
Yeah, I agree. Hull City, 13th in the Championship last year.
Yeah. I always worry for Hull, because they don't, you know what I mean. They're not a massive club, you know what I mean. Rugby take over that side of the country, and the football seems secondary, and they don't seem to invest in the football club. They don't get massive attendances, you know what I mean. They haven't spent a lot of money on players this summer, and I don't think it's going to be a straightforward season for them this season. I think they're going to struggle, and a little bit like Birmingham City, you know what I mean. They've been in the Premier League, but no one has the divine right to do well, and I think with the players that they've invested in, I think it's going to be a tough season for them.
Yeah, they what caught my eye with Hull was the players they've released. So they've let David Marshall go on a free. He's a quality, real good experienced keeper.
Yeah.
Will Keane has been released. Liam Ridgewell. They're all Premier League Championship experienced players.
Yeah.
And they haven't really replaced that experience. They seem to have brought in a loan and a free from lower leagues.
Yeah.
Which makes me think it's a gamble. Those players could really step up, and they could do great. But their main sort of leading or shining light is Jared Bowen. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the
Yeah, he's a
Championship
good player.
last year.
Good player.
I've
Scored goals at
again,
the right time and kept them. He kept them above the water, and you know what I mean. But for a young boy, you know what I mean. Now he's probably the expectation will be on his shoulders this year, and it might be a little bit unfair. You know what I mean, to put that kind of pressure on these young players who come through the likes of Hull, but they haven't got much choice because they're bringing in players from Gillingham's and from Forest Greens and from lesser teams, and you know what I mean. It's going to be a tough season for them, and I don't see them probably getting out of the bottom half at all.
no, I think I actually think they could be dark horses for relegation.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say they were like nailed on
Yeah.
relegation, but I would not be surprised to see them down there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot to ask of young players like Bowen to keep a club up.
Yeah, on his own.
You know,
you can't do it. It's a 46 game season, size, isn't it? You know what I mean? And you've got to
no matter how good you are.
Yeah, you've got to understand these young players need some experience to help them along the way when they're not playing very well, or they need some confidence. And who's going to put their arm around these kind of players? And they're not influxed with massive experience. And if they have a bad start of the season, where do they go from there?
Indeed. Next up, Leeds United, massive club, finished third last year.
Yeah,
Just missed out.
Yeah, to be fair, they haven't massively invested. You know what I mean? They've sold Jack Clark and then got him back on loan. They've got some more loan players in. They'll be up there again. You know what I mean? They'll go and try and get the title again. They'll go for promotion again. You know what I mean? If they get in the playoffs, they'll try again. Leeds are a huge club, and you know what I mean. When they eventually do get into the Premier League, then who knows where that football club could end, because it's only a matter of time before they do get back in there. But you know what I mean. It's just I just hope this is, like I said, I just hope there's other teams who can do it before they do, because you know what I mean. They are going to get there one day. They are going to get there. They're going to get there one day. They're going to do it. They have to. It's just one of them things.
Yeah, they seem to be going more for the loan players this year to try and do it that way. I think Helder Costa could be a masterstroke.
Yeah,
you know, on his day he could be amazing, but he's a bit, you know, you never quite know what you're going to get with him. I think, pains me to say it, but I think they'll be, you know, up in that top three.
Yeah, they always
again.
are. I mean, and it's heartbreaking to see, because you know what I mean. A lot of Leeds fans on Twitter always jump on my back when Cardiff get beat or Leeds get beat, when Middlesbrough get beat. Sorry, and it's all well hearted, but it's such annoying though, because last year they were unplayable at sometimes, and score goals for fun, and you know what I mean. They were good going forwards, and they were keeping clean sheets, and then all of a sudden, when it came to the crunch, they bottled at the end, and you know what I mean. And that might be a similar thing to Derby, that when the pressure comes, that they just can't handle the final hurdle. But one season they are going to be able to handle it, and that football club with the backing that they've got could be massive again.
Yeah, you know, let's be fair. When they do get back up to the Premier League, it wouldn't surprise you to see them do what Leicester have done and be, you know, back right up there, involved with the big boys.
Yeah,
you know, in the top 5, 6, because that's how big the club is. You know, it's a huge club.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think Pontus Jansson could be a huge miss for them, though.
Yeah, it was a strange one, that you know what I mean. We talk about it for Brentford, but on the other side of the coin, you know what I mean. It's not massive money in terms of the Leeds need that kind of money. You know what I mean. They haven't reinvested in it, so there must be a plan for that money somewhere down the line. Are they waiting for a player? Have they bidded for players? There's got to be something behind that, because £5 million is a drop in the ocean if you can get that holy grail of getting promoted. And he scored goals. He scored important goals. He kept some clean sheets for them. So it was a strange one, but I'm sure, you know, I mean, Leeds, you know, I mean, they're not stupid. It's right. It's the chairman's quite shrewd, and he's a businessman, and the manager's obviously very, very talented at what he does. So he wouldn't let somebody go like him and not have a plan to recoup someone better.
Yeah, I mean, taking my my blue glasses off, the the manager Beisler, when Malky Mackay left, I wanted Beisler to take over, not Solskjaer, because I love the unorthodox way he approaches things, and his tactics sometimes they look on paper like all over the shop, but in fact they can be genius. He's one of those guys who just thinks a bit outside the box, and I feel like we need more people like that in the world, let alone football.
No, I agree, and it's the things he instills in his players as well. You know what I mean? That he made his players last year go and do an honest day's work. He made them go like litter pick and you know what I mean, have a proper day's living, and you know what I mean, and ground his players, and you know what I mean. The way this team started, it was like they were hungry for success, and you know what I mean. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he upsets people along the way. But so does Neil Warnock, so does every other good manager, Alex Ferguson, all the top, Jose Mourinho, because the winners and the care, and you know what I mean. And if he was manager of one of my football clubs and one of my teams that I supported, I would back him 100%, because he only means good for your football club. And you know what I mean. I think it could be his year, because he failed at the last hurdle last year, and the club, you know, I'll say bottled it in the playoffs, because they didn't have a very good end of the season. But this year could be their year.
Yeah, you had to slip out in the end, didn't you? Just to give him a bit on
Twitter. Just for the Leeds fans, if I'm going to get abused, I might as well get abused properly.
Yeah, innit? So after the Bottlers, after Leeds, we got Luton Town coming up, which is great. I gotta say, it is absolutely amazing. I'm so happy to see them back in the Championship, and I cannot wait. I just can't wait to see Cardiff. I'm just happy to see him in the same league as Cardiff again.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to Friday night, because obviously they're playing Middlesbrough. It's a chance for me to watch Middlesbrough anyway on Sky, and it's a chance to see Luton back in the Championship, and I'm really excited for them, because you know what I mean. I'm going back in the day when I was a young boy watching Mark Stein at Luton Town and they're winning the Little Woods Cup at Wembley and on the plastic pitch, and you know what I mean, that was a proper football and my proper era, and you know what I mean. And Kenilworth Road has never changed from that day. And I'm so looking forward to seeing it packed out on Friday night against a star-studded Middlesbrough side, and you know what I mean. It was full of Championship players, and you know what I mean. But you know what I mean, it's going to be a tough game. You know what I mean. Middlesbrough are going to go to a side like Luton, and some of the players that Luton have brought in some very good Championship players. They've spent a lot of money, but the Callum McManamans and the Jacob Butterfields, and the Martin Craneys, you know what I mean. The very good players they brought in. So you know what I mean. They've obviously they've recruited very well and understood where they need to improve, because they've had a couple of good seasons. It hasn't just been one. They got promoted from League Two to League One, League One to League to the Championship. So they're on a massive high. So you know what I mean. If they have a bad start, then no one's going to have a go at them or have a go at the manager and the players. They're going to enjoy the ride, I believe, and they'll upset a lot of people along the way.
Yeah, that's it. They'll get in people's faces.
Yeah,
but they've made four free signings, and all four seem like really good fits. Championship players,
100%,
a bit of experience, bit of youth.
Yeah,
I quite fancy them to stay up comfortably. I got to be honest.
I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll stay up. I think they'll be probably top of the bottom half. It'll be a good luck to them. You know what I mean? They deserve their opportunity in this league to stay up.
Absolutely, proper football club.
Yeah,
proper football ground.
Yeah.
Next up, the mighty Middlesbrough.
The mighty Middlesbrough are not so mighty with
seventh last year.
Yeah. Disappointed last year. Probably disappointed more with the way that they played. It was very, very unattractive. Tony Pulis had his way of doing things, and subsequently lost his job. Now down to a younger, suitable Middlesbrough supporter who obviously will be so proud on Friday night when he leads his team out, and I'm sure Woody will. You know what I mean? Will give everything he's got. You know what I mean? He hasn't spent a lot of money. He's lost for me a very good player in Aidan Flint. You You know what I mean? He's lost Martin Braithwaite. He's brought in a couple of players. He's brought in an old goalkeeper who we had before. He's brought in Marcus Brown, who I watched on. I went to the game on Saturday, what I was very impressed with. He was very direct. He's very, very pacey. And I believe he'll get some goals. He got a left back in from Blackpool called Bowler. He's a bit raw. He did okay when he came on, but it's going to be a tough season for them unless he brings in I believe another 2 or 3, maybe 4 reinforcements. You know what I mean? I look at the West Broms, the Cardiffs, the Fulhams, the Leeds. You know what I mean? You've got a brand new manager who hopefully does really well, but it's everyone in up north is saying they'll be happy with mid-table. You know what I mean? And the manager's come out and said, if we finish mid-table, it'll be a disaster. You know what I mean? So he's saying all the right things, and fans want to give him an opportunity. But you know what I mean? The football club needs success. It needs, for the area, it needs to be in the Premier League. The club needs the money. The area needs the money, and the only way to do that is getting back in the Premier League. And I just believe it's just going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I think Woodgate will try and get him playing that sort of high pressing, more attractive football that you used to see in the 90s, you know, with your Janinios and your Ravanellis and stuff. Like, obviously, he hasn't got the same caliber of player, but I do feel like from his interviews and the little bits I've seen that, you know, he's going to try and instill a bit more attacking football.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying all the right things. You know what I mean? He's a Middlesbrough fan at heart. He knows exactly what he wants to do. It's just, has he got the right players to do it? Has he got, you know what I mean? If he had the backing of Aitor Karanka, if he had the backing of Tony Pulis with the money that they both spent, I'd be very confident sat here that we would be title contenders. But I think with probably the lack of funds and the lack of spending, you know what I mean, it could be a struggle. He's still got a strong squad on paper. It's a championship winning squad, but you know what I mean, paper doesn't win titles. Paper doesn't get you promoted, and I look at other business and think, I wish we could have tried or gone for this kind of player or kept this kind of player, and it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, defensively, Middlesbrough were really, really good last year.
Yeah,
they did have trouble scoring. Yeah. I'm assuming like Borough fans are going to be hoping that Asom Bolonga is going to have a good season and he can hit the ground running.
Yeah, obviously, I hope so.
You know, he does score goals, but you know, you need a big season from him where he can stay fit and get a run of goals going, I suppose. How big a miss will Aidan Flint be?
If you read all the forums and you read Twitter, fans think he's very poor, but you know what I mean. You look at the bigger picture. You know what I mean. I look at Middlesbrough's performance last season. How many players in their squad overachieved, did well? You know what I mean. You're probably looking at a handful. You know what I mean. They didn't have a very good season, and he was part of that, and he's probably took the brunt of it. And you know what I mean. Neil Warnock's not stupid. Neil Warnock he's come from the Premier League, and he's gone for, in his opinion, the best centre half in the Championship, and that's in both boxes. And when he was at Bristol City, he scored goals. You know what I mean? He was part of that side when Bristol City got to the semi-final of the Carling Cup, and I believe they've done some great business. And for me, he'll leave a massive hole because, as I say, I watched them on Saturday, and I thought they were a little bit shaky at the back at times, and he would just have that calming influence. He's 6'7" or wherever he is. He's a stature, good in the air. You know what I mean? He's a proper defender, and I think he'll leave a massive hole. But the hole's been filled by somebody else, and good luck to whoever does it at the Borough, because it gives someone else an opportunity.
Yeah, they've lost a little bit of experience, haven't they? And obviously Downing and Flint is experienced at the Championship level.
Yeah.
So hopefully Woodgate will get a couple of quid to spend now before the window closes.
I'm hoping, and you know, what I'm hearing is we're close to agreeing on a couple, and you know, I mean, obviously that won't be done by tomorrow night, but I think by next Saturday's home game, that I hope he's brought in 1 or 2. Hopefully.
So we reckon Middlesbrough. What did you say? Mid-table, is it?
fans would be happy with mid-table. I'd be happy with playoffs. I think you've got to go for the playoffs. You know what I mean? A club like Middlesbrough, you know what I mean? You should be aiming for the playoffs at a minimum. And you know what I mean? If you can get the players playing, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be bang on in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Middlesbrough will be sort of mid-table to maybe, like 6th or 7th.
Yeah,
And it just depends if you can get a run going, if you can get your strikers scoring goals at the right times.
Yeah.
It's just it's a lot of, not luck, but having that momentum at the right time.
Yeah,
is a big, in Championship, I think, is more important than any other league. So coming to the last couple now, we've got Millwall, who finished 21st last year. Millwall are very, it's, what you're going to get with them. They're in your face.
It's a hostile place to go. You know what I mean?
It's friendly place.
Yeah, they've brought here. It's like a zoo. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's that friendly. It's a great place to go as a player because you love that intimidation. You know what I mean? As a supporter, you want to go because you like that hostile atmosphere. You know what I mean? And they've surprised me with some of the players they brought in. They brought in quite a number of players. You know what I mean? They've spent a fortune of players. You know what I mean? They brought in the centre forward from Reading, Bavardson, I think it is, and I watched him last year for Reading, and I was very impressed. He scored quite a few goals and quite a few big goals at the end. And you know what I mean? I know they've lost a couple of centre forwards themselves, so they had to reinvest and get the money back in. So you know what I mean? I think they've notoriously struggled. You know what I mean? Millwall. You know what I mean? Neil Harris has done a great job. He's done a great job over the years to keep them in the leagues. They always do. They always seem to do well in the FA Cup and in the League Cup, but the league is always somewhere where they seem to struggle, and I don't see them struggling. I don't see them not struggling again. I don't see them going down, but I see them teetering on the edge just again like they always have.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I Millwall, like Brentford and Birmingham, for me is like they're proper traditional old clubs. And I think it's a dying breed. I think the grounds being hostile and close to the pitch, like I really miss all that stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously they're moving towards these sort of more modern grounds, and they're trying to get rid of this sort of hostility. And I think the hostility is part of the atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll always, I'll have a laugh and a joke and, about Millwall and Luton and whatever, but like they're the clubs I want to be playing, and they're the clubs I'd like to go and watch Cardiff play out live and, have a day out and stuff over going to Old Trafford or somewhere. Obviously, I want to see Cardiff playing in the Premier League, but from a person, like a day out point of view with your mates, I'd rather go somewhere like Birmingham or Luton or those type of grounds. That's just me, maybe. And I love Manchester as well. It's like my favourite city outside of Cardiff. So, Notts Forest or Nottingham Forest, because they ate Notts Forest, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ninth last year.
Yeah, to be fair, they've got some investment. They've brought in a lot of players. They brought in a lot of foreign players. They brought a couple of players. Sammy Amiobi signed for them. Albert Adoma signed for them. Two very, very good Championship players. You know what I mean? Attacking players who'll create. They remind me a little bit of some of the kind of players that Wolves were bringing in a couple of years ago when they ran away with the league. That you know what I mean? That is that the kind of route that they're going down? Are they going down that kind of foreign route and trying to take over the foreign by storm and by doing things the right way and by technically running away with the league? And like I said before about a few other clubs, they're a massive football club, and you know what I mean. Do they deserve to be back in the Premier League? They probably do, but you can't be. It's not a guarantee, and they can't just think it's going to happen. But you know what I mean. I'm interested to see how they do because they've underachieved, in my opinion, the last couple of seasons, and this season they probably need to have a good season.
Yeah, I think they are like the underachievers, and they always feel like they should be higher up than where they end up. They got a good squad. Lewis Grabham, I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, good player.
He scores goals, yeah, and that's difficult to find. So
Yeah,
you
but
know, if he's
I think with them though, what they struggle with is creating chances, and with them going to get Sammy Amiobi on the left, Albert Adoma on the right, they've probably gone a little bit more creativity. So people like him will get more opportunity to score more goals. So it's, you know what I mean. I think watch the space with them. It'll probably score more goals, which will make them more of a threat than they were this year.
yeah, I got them as playoffs. I have Forest.
Yeah, I think they'll do well. I think that, you know what I mean. I'm quite impressed with the players that they've brought in. You know what I mean. Some of the foreign players might struggle, but you just don't know until they're thrown on the pitch. You know what I mean? I think I said that about some of the Wolves players. You know what I mean? They can play for FC Porto 1 minute and struggle in the Championship, but then they took it over and look at them now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favourite teams to watch, Wolves. They play some unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, super.
So we got Preston, 14th last year. Only brought 2 players in. You know, like David
Nugent will score goals, but it's a difficult one. You know what I mean? They're not gonna walk away with the Championship. They're not gonna for me. They're not gonna get in the playoffs. You know what I mean? The people will people will expect them to take points off some of the big clubs, but mid-table for me, I think I'll be happy with.
Yeah, I think mid-table, maybe towards the lower end, maybe. Yeah. I think they've lost a couple of really experienced players, which again I've mentioned that a couple of times with a few clubs, can mean a great deal with the Championship. So we'll see. I think, I do think. I think I got a feeling they may go down, but you know, I wouldn't say they're like a favourite. I wouldn't say they were like.
I think that I'm not sure they'll go down. I just think they'll
maybe lower half. Maybe it'd be more.
And I think Preston North End fan will probably be happy with that.
Staying up, that's what they want, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last couple now, we got QPR. Oh dear, what has happened to QPR? Jeez.
They brought in Jordan Hugill. They brought in Lee Wallace from Rangers. They were the worst team I watched last season by a country mile. They were
dreadful,
they were awful. And Steve McLaren was a manager when I watched them last year, and I don't see things getting much better for them, to be honest. I think they'll struggle down the bottom of the league. And if they're not careful, that trapdoor could end up swallowing them up and taking them out.
Yeah, I think I can't remember what I said now, and I've lost my piece of paper. But they're them and someone else was my dark horses to go down. Just the sheer amount of players they brought in as well.
Yeah, but they keep doing it every year.
Real long list.
Every single season they bring in about 15, 16 players and get rid of 15, 16 players. There's no consistency with a football club like that. And you know what I mean? The chairman, you know what I mean? He's a very shrewd businessman, and he owns Formula One or wherever he owns. And it's not a right way to do things. There's got to be a long-term plan, and that long-term plan is not working at that football club for sure. And it's such a shame because it used to be a big club.
Yeah, and again, when like that type of ground that I really love, but just and it's been now long term, haven't it? It's not like they've had like a bad season or two.
Yeah, it's been happening.
They've been getting worse.
Yeah, season after season. You know what I mean? When they got promoted the season after we beat them in the playoffs, you know what I mean? You can go back that far, and I thought they were going to kick on then and go to the next level, but it's gradually got worse and worse. Get relegated, get promoted again, and it's no way to do it. You know what I mean? You look where Cardiff have moved on to. You know what I mean? That QPR have stood still. Well, at best they've stood still.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, got to mention the goal, Millennium Stadium.
Yeah, the QPR fans won't like me, but they won't like me for saying they're going to get relegated either. Then will they? So it's
no, it's
a double whammy.
Yeah. So I just skipped through all my list, so I've completely lost who we were on. Who did we just do?
We got Reading next, I think.
Yeah, QPR. So we're on Reading next.
Yeah, Reading. Reading are the same thing. Reading were. I remember when Cardiff got promoted last game of the season, and Reading needed a point to stay up, and it was obviously set in stone that we both needed a point, and that was going to be it. But Reading really struggled for me, and they struggled again last season. You know what I mean? They've lost the best centre forward. They brought in Charlie Adam, which is an interesting one. They brought in a couple of loan players, a couple of free transfers, but you know what I mean? I can't see them pulling up any trees. I think it'll be a struggle for them. And I think it'll be another long season at Medeski, 100%.
Another one who's been almost like swallowed up into the championship after they sort of looked for a few years like they were going to go back up.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's how ruthless the championship is.
Yeah,
if you get it wrong,
you can be
get
stuck
it
in
wrong,
you can be stuck in the whirlwind for 5, 6, 7 years. You know what I mean? You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep reinvesting, and you know what I mean. And instead of being a buying club like the Cardiff Cities or the Fulhams are, you know what I mean. You become a selling club, and by the time you know it, 7 years down the line, 8 years down the line, you've sold all your players, and you're stuck in a relegation battle year after year.
You look at like QPR and Reading now. They're like, we're talking about relegation for the two of them. Yeah. And it wasn't so long ago they were battling Cardiff for promotion and playoff places.
Yeah, I agree.
It's one of those things. They've lost a few experienced players as well. Yeah. They've lost the keeper, Manone and John O'Shea, and they're very real experienced players who are going to guide you through difficult times. So interesting, but I think like lower table, maybe mid table. I would imagine that they'll be happy.
Yeah, I agree.
And Sheffield Wednesday.
Interesting one for me, this one, because I was really excited because I thought Steve Bruce might have gotten promoted. I thought he'd obviously taken over in the summer, in the end of the season, and got to know his players. He was going to have a big push this season, and then he leaves to go to Newcastle and leaves them in a bit of a hole and a really bad time as well. You know what I mean? It's another signed Kadeem Harris from Cardiff City, so that'll be an interesting one. It'll keep me eye on them to see how he does, but I can't see them doing well because of the summer they've had, and it's going to be a bit of a turmoil start. They've not really brought in any players. You know what I mean? It's going to be a massive tough ask for that football club to have a good season this season, I believe.
Yeah, they've released some players as well, like some decent players.
Some good players. Gary Hooper, goal scorer.
David Jones. Yeah. The one that stood out for me is basically they've got rid of George Boyd, who's proven championship player, and brought in Kadeem Harris, who he's young and he's raw, could work out really well for him. Hasn't really pulled up many trees for Cardiff over the couple of years he's been there. He's quick, skillful, but it's interesting that they would sacrifice, a proven
player for him.
Championship player for a younger player, but these young players, they need a chance, and Kadeem Harris hasn't.
He needs a platform to go and play, and good luck to him. I hope he does well, but at the same time, like you say, for the football club, the manager and the chairman's going to be under a lot of pressure to see a young boy come in and some experienced players leave. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. So Sheffield Wednesday, do you reckon playoffs?
No, not for me. I think
mid-table.
I think they'll be happy with mid-table, especially what's happened in the summer. I think, just a few weeks ago, with Steve Bruce leaving, I think they'll be happy with mid-table.
Yeah, I think they'll be happy to stay up. To be honest, after what happened with Steve Bruce and it being so close to the season, I do feel like they just want to stay up, make sure they don't get relegated, and then build from there. Next up, we've got Stoke.
Stoke will be an interesting one this season, because for me, they had a poor season last season. You know what I mean? They should have done a lot better than what they had. They still got some very, very, very good players, some Premier League players, some very good Championship players. They brought in some interesting players. Stephen Ward from Burnley, Lee Gregory scores goals at Millwall. Nick Powell, I like him at Millwall. He's
very good.
Done really well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I believe they'll have a better season than what they did last season. So you know what I mean? They've still got Ince. They've still got Jack Butland. You know what I mean? They've still got some good players. So
some real good players.
You know what I mean? I believe that this year they'll definitely get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think playoffs. They've got them down. Stoke as my one of my playoff teams.
Yeah.
Next up we got Swansea.
Oh God. Um, to be fair,
What can you say?
it pains me to say, you know what I mean, but it's going to keep the season interesting for Cardiff City because it's going to be
Yeah,
it's rivalry. You're going to want to finish ahead of your rivals. You know what I mean? You're going to want to enjoy every Saturday when they lose and you win, and your points difference is bigger and bigger and bigger. They haven't invested at all. You know
made
what
a
I mean?
few quid.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It is what it is. You know what I mean. But they're still gonna they'll still have a decent season, I believe. You know what I mean, because they play football the right way. You know what I mean. But it's not for me. You know what I mean. I'd prefer having Neil Warnock successful football over playing pretty football and not winning any football matches. So that's for me. The less spoke about them, the better. I think.
Yeah, I got not much to say other than they got a couple of decent young Welsh players,
Yeah,
and
they have. Yeah. They've obviously lost the best one to Man United. You know what I mean. Good luck to him. I hope he does well. I hope he does well for his future more than anything. But you know, I mean, he's too good to be in the Championship anyway if he's signing for Man United. So um, it is what it is.
yeah, bottom half. I think they'll.
I think he'll be mid-table. I'll be happy with relegation, but I'll go for mid-table.
Yeah, I like lower half. I think they'll end up,
Yeah.
but obviously, I'd like to see bottom of the table.
Oh yeah, bottom of the table, zero points,
0 points, 0 goals.
minus points. Yeah.
Last, I think it's last, is West Brom.
We've got two, haven't we? We've got West Brom. Kenneth Zaha, interesting one. You know what I mean? They've obviously gone spend a little bit of money, gone for a little bit of experience, gone for some Championship players who've done well last season. In the manager's opinion, they've obviously got a good manager in place as well. So I think they'll do well. They're a big club, West Brom. You know what I mean? They've got a good following. You know what I mean? They probably didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve last year for obvious reasons, and but I think they'll do well this year and get in the playoffs again.
Yeah, and I think bringing in Zaha with Rondon going out for like 16.5 million, I think it's pretty shrewd.
Yeah,
Zaha, like I mentioned earlier, didn't have a good season last year. He scored like 5 goals, but
yeah. But I
in
think
the
he'll play well
year
with
before,
Rodriguez, though. You know, I mean, J
yeah,
Rodriguez scores goals, and it'll probably be the perfect foil for him. That he'll win headers, he'll win the hustle and bustle, and then J Rodriguez can go and feed off the scraps.
yeah. And the one thing that he does do, Zaha, is he creates chances for others with his runs and his movement.
Yeah,
So I do think that's a good sign, and I
yeah,
expect him to score 15 goals at least.
yeah.
I got them in the playoffs at
Yeah,
least.
for me, they'll get in the playoffs. Yeah,
I,
they'll go for the title, but I think they'll fall short. I think they'll fall short.
yeah, I think they won't be far off the sort of top 2 or 3. But
Yeah,
for me, it's still Leeds, Cardiff, Fulham. They're like the
yeah.
three.
There's sides for me who have to do well for me because of the investments. You know what I mean? So the big game players where you know what I mean some of the West Broms who haven't really reinvested that much money. You know what I mean? There's not as much pressure on them, so you know what I mean they can afford to finish a little bit lower down the table.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, Wigan Athletic.
Wigan, yeah, it's strange on Wigan. Wigan, you know, what I mean, they don't really invest. They don't really, you know, what I mean, it's similar to Hull City, rugby following at the club. Rugby's bigger than the football. They bought in, spent about 3-4 million quid on Jamal Lowe from Portsmouth and Anthony Robinson. You know what I mean? So they've got a couple of lads in and. But I don't foresee them. I don't foresee them pulling up any trees this year. You know what I mean? They'll finish mid-table at best. You know what I mean? It can be a not nice place to go, but you know what I mean. It's not a very hostile place to go. The crowd's not normally large at the JJB Stadium. You know what I mean? And it's always a nice place to go and enjoy your football if you get there before the rugby and the pitch is in a decent nick.
Yeah, I think they can be awkward to play, and
Yeah.
that they will pick up some big results against some of the higher up teams. But like you say, it's not like a Millwall or a Luton or a Birmingham where it can be, quite hostile. It's quite sort of gentle, like Swansea and stuff like that.
Yeah, little club, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Wigan, they'll be in a relegation battle. But Anthony Pilkington could be vital for them, and I think he's a big. If he can pick up goals, he could keep them up.
Yeah,
but
he has to though, because he's probably one of the most experienced players now. You know what I mean? He's been there, he's done it, he's wore the t-shirt, he's got promoted, he's played in some big dressing rooms. He's been there, and he needs to continue it on the bigger stage now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to finish off, then, who's going to win the league?
I'll go Fulham to win the league. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go down there. I would love to Cardiff to win it, but you know what I mean? I look at Fulham. I look at if they keep Mitrovic, if he doesn't score 25, 30 goals this season, I'll be very shocked. And if you know what I mean, you look down there, notoriously a side who has a 25 plus centre forward in the team normally wins the league or gets promoted, and I can see him doing that. And Sessegnon, if they can keep hold of them kind of players, they have to be up there. And so I'll go Fulham.
Yeah, I think Fulham, simply because of Mitrovic. Cardiff haven't got a 25 goal a season striker.
Concern. Yeah.
And that's my one concern for the whole season. And this German lad could come in and he could bag 25 goals, but we don't know. I think Fulham will win the league. Cardiff second or third.
Yeah, that's why I think Fulham won, Cardiff 2, and then your playoffs are a lottery out of Leeds,
West Brom,
West Brom's hopefully, Middlesbrough's your Stokes, maybe your Blackburn at a push. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then relegated.
Millwall. Millwall for me. I'm going to go Millwall. I'm going to go I'm going to go Preston. I'm going to go Preston, Millwall, and Birmingham City. 3 big clubs.
Yeah, I think Birmingham, Preston, and I think they were my 2 dark horses to get relegated. And I think finally, Wigan, I think, don't have enough.
Good show. Well, they did it 3 years ago. They got relegated, and they came back up and walked League One. And you know, what I mean, that's when Powell did well. So they could potentially do that again, and they'd probably be happy with that as well.
Yeah, and I think big clubs to be relegated, didn't they? Those 3,
yeah, but the championship's full of big clubs, teams who've won the European Cup, teams who've won the Premier League, teams who've been in the Premier League, in the Champions League, in Europa League. So something's got to give this season. Something massive's got to give.
Oh yeah. Right. Thanks for joining me, mate, for this extra long show just to go through the championship. I appreciate it. Appreciate the extra time as well, mate. And tell the people where they can find you on Twitter and Instagram and whatever else you got going on.
I'm on Andy Campbell 32 on Instagram. On Twitter. Sorry, Andy Cams 197 on Instagram. So yeah, just get following. It's always good for a laugh. There's not normally a lot of banter and normally a little bit of abuse flying my way.
I'll take care of you. You like to wind them up, see? That's the problem, especially when the football season comes and the Swansea start losing.
Roll on Saturday, yeah. Roll on Saturday.
It's going to be good stuff. You can follow me on @ACEcast_nation on Twitter, Facebook.com/ACEcastNation, and YouTube.com ACEpodcastNation. And audio versions of all our shows are on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Apple Podcasts, all that sort of stuff. And share the video, like the video, leave us comments. Tell us who you think is going to be relegated or promoted from the Championship, and tell us how wrong we were about your club, because no doubt we were. Except Swansea, they're going down. And cheers for Andy for joining me, and cheers for everyone for listening. And we'll see you guys later.
And sit down.
Cheers.